1, 2, 3, 4. You're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you as we crest the hill at number 54. I always get so proud of myself when I think of 54 with my great co-host that was calling car 54, wasn't it? Well, I'm a great co-host, yep. Hawkeye Two Feathers, David Null. Thank you for coming.
Greetings and blessings, all y'all out there. We always hope and pray that you're doing well. And thank you for coming. Cheers, everybody.
Absolutely. We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking not about South American, not about North American Indians, but we're going to be talking about giants and Indians all together at once. And who were these giants? Did they really exist? Did they exist with the Indians? Were they friends with the Indians, or were they the Indians themselves? That is the big question. And if you know about that, well, there you go. And then there's also the fact that Big Al has now got the angel cards done, that he's mailing them out as we speak. So if you got an order in, excuse me, on some angel cards, he's got them in the mail, or he's working on it, and he's in the chat. And I got some decks ordered. I got some Soul Tribe cards ordered. I'm getting a whole package. I can't wait. Big Al, thank you so much. If I find this here, I will pull them up, and we will show them off to everybody because they are really good cards. So, David, what do you got going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh, nothing much. We, had rain the other day, which we really needed. That hurricane went right over us, or the tropical storm, excuse me. And we got some high winds and 2 inches of rain, which we desperately needed. So, but other than that, things have just been cool.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, while you were getting rain and surviving the effects of a hurricane coming through, we got cold and snow. It's been like in the teens and almost zero out here with snow, lots of snow. It's crazy. It's cold and it's snowy. We definitely got plenty of snow for Santa coming in the winter, for Christmas. So he's definitely coming. But while he's coming, Big Al has made the cards, and I'm going to show them all off to everybody. Here you go. Here's the cards. Remember, everybody, there we go. This is what they look like. He's done a great job with them. You will be getting your deck if you've ordered them. Remember, he put the name, the invocation, the psalm on there, how to say it. These are beautiful cards. I'm going to go through these kind of fast, but they're all decorated. It's going to be great. I don't know what else you get. I think you get some other stuff with these cards. I'm not all sure. There was like supposed to be a roadmap with it or something. But regardless of how it goes, these are going to be nice. He put a lot of work and effort into these. So if you're interested in something like this, you can get on there. They're around $50. And the backs of the cards look like that. And they also got words, numbers, and talk of the Oracle of the 72 Angels. There you go. All really, really, really nice. Remember, each one is different. And very, very nice. Now, I don't know if this is the first or second rendering of them, but they're going to be close to what this looks like. So I hope you all like them. I like the part where I can read the thing, and he's got it, Chaya, or Chaya, whatever. Omika. I'm really bad at pronunciation, so that's going to help me out. That's what I like. And it tells it right on the back of the card, no looking it up in a big book. So I hope you all enjoy that. Big Al has got the cards. I'll be leaving a link in the description below where you can PayPal him. And there you go. There you go. Elderberry's getting the deck. Look at that. Big Al's in the chat. If you got anything to say about the cards, ask him in the chat right away. If you can't, you can always email me and I will get a message to him. Okay, no problems. Let's see. Max Vision's in the house. Elderberry's in the house. Michelle Can-Am Free. Thank you for coming. Lucky Stone, he says this could be interesting. And it will be interesting. Why? Because I always try to do my homework, don't I? Oh, man. So what do you know about the Giants? David?
I believe there were giants. That's basically,
Did you know of any Indian tales of giants?
I was looking for them earlier, and I'm sure that there are, but I couldn't find any. I'm a little slow today and was busy and didn't get to what I should have. But I just know that there are tales of very large men way back in the day, and in different parts of the country too.
Yes, all over the country. The best ones recorded, I found out, are usually the ones on the eastern side of the coast, are usually the best recorded ones, from the Iroquois and the Cherokees, and the, but anyway, yeah. So the east side and the Midwest have most of them, and most of the big Indian mounds that there are around, a lot of them, the older ones, are of giants that are buried there. Now, we're not talking, 40-foot tall giants. We're talking, 10, 12 feet tall, anything between, 8 and 10 foot probably. But again, a 10-foot tall man is a pretty good sized giant. Now, remember, did you know that when the white man first came here, the Indians were taller than the white man? The Europeans coming. The Europeans were starving to death over there in Europe. They, what was it, like DeSoto and all of them guys? DeSoto, I think, was only like 5'1", and the Indians averaged almost 6 foot at that time. So in the big picture of it, his men were short and small. There, a 6 foot man in the day was a giant in the European class. You know what I'm saying? Because the Indians had plenty of food. They had a diet that consisted of at least 2,000 plus calories a day, if not more. So go figure. They were eating well, and the Europeans, they weren't doing so good. And it stunted their growth. And so when if the Indians were talking about giants, they had to be pretty big, and Indians were tough, so anyway, Leviathan for a dragon in the desert is 1,000 miles long. Yes, there were. Did you know that the Indians had a word for dragon, but it means meteor? I'm finding all this stuff out this week. I was like on this search, and it refers to a meteor, a fiery dragon would have been a meteor. Did you know that in Minnesota, their sign for truth is a picture of Bigfoot?
Oh, really?
Yes. A symbol is Bigfoot, or Sasquatch or whatever, Wow. Yeah. Poor Allie spent $700 for shipping. Oh my gosh. 48 states, is $10 each priority mail. Holy cow. Al, I gotta suggest them for you. Send them media class. Media class is like half price or less. I know when I send out a book, I found out from the post office guy, if I just wrap it in a package and I tell him it's for media, the price goes way down. I like that part. Anyway, otherwise you send it out and you don't tell them it's media, it's really expensive. Anyway, one of the stories I heard, and this was a good one, was about it was an acorn story. And so the Indians were having a hard year with food, right? And the Indians collect acorns. Now, in order to make the acorns edible, they would put them in woven baskets and set them in the river so that the water could flush them out, because they, you know, they have what you call it in them, you know, whatever's in acorns are from oak trees, right? And they got that the acid or whatever the heck it is, and you got to flush that stuff out so you can make them edible. So they would put them in these baskets and they would take them to the river. Well, then every day they would go down to the river and all the acorns were gone, and the basket was thrown onto the side of the beach, or the side of the river. So they took 10 of their bravest braves and they hid in the woods, waiting all night, waiting to find out, you know, who's taking the acorns. And just like that, they heard a rumbling and they heard tree branches breaking. And then they couldn't see anybody. And a large human figure hand reached out from the darkness above their heads, from the treetops, down into the creek or river or whatever it was, and picked up the large basket of acorns, lifted it up into the air. They seen it was a woman, a wild woman. She was standing so tall that she was, you know, almost tops with the tree tops. And she took the basket full of acorns, dumped it in her mouth, and threw the basket to the side. And at that point, the braves all, you know, got up and started shooting arrows at her. And they eventually killed her because she was eating her acorns. But, you know, a fight and a struggle ensued. But, you know, she was a giant wild woman covered with hair from head to toe. So, you know, that was one of the stories that I read. But there's also stories out there too. Another one of the stories, and I have this on PDF somewhere, and we're going to go through one of them. This one here. And this is called Stone Shirt and the 1-2. I hope you all can see that. I'm going to get rid of this. Oops. Oh, I got to make it a little bit bigger. Can you see that? Okay, there we go. And this one here, I heard on one of these YouTube channels or something like that. And somehow or another, in all those books I got, I seem to found it. Believe it or not. This was the exact story that the guy was talking about. So I'm going to read this here. We're just going to go through this quick as I can. It's short. It's called The Stone Shirt and the 1-2. Now you tell me after this if what it sounds like, because I have my own ideas what they were talking about. Stone Shirt was a terrible giant who wore a shirt of shells so fastened that no arrow could pierce it. He lived with his 3 daughters on the shore of the big sea water. His daughters were not bad or hard-hearted, but they were forced to do all sorts of evil to protect their father. They had magic arrows, which whenever they wished and found their way straight to the hearts of their enemy, though a shot without aim. Stone Shirt, while out hunting one day, saw a beautiful woman gathering flags. Who are you? Said he to her. She was afraid of him and said, I am, oops, gosh, I went a little too fast. I screwed that one up, didn't I? First it didn't want to go, and now it's going too slow. What the heck happened there? I didn't do anything, I swear. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, she says, I'm afraid of him. And I said, I am Spirit Mint. You are not, roared the giant. You are a mouse, the wife of Crane. I will kill him, and you shall live with me. Kill your child before I return. I will dash him to pieces before your eyes. Mouse picked up the boy, and as soon as the giant was out of sight, she ran quickly with it to her grandmother's. Then she went back and smeared the stones with blood of some fresh bear's meat, which she threw into the lake. She could not warn her husband, for he had gone hunting soon after sunrise, and she did not know which way he went, or when he would likely be to return. Search as she might, there was no escape. The giant was not long gone when he returned. He carried the scalp of a crane, whom he had met on the way back to his wigwam. Seizing Mouse by the hair, he shook the scalp in her face and then dragged her through the forest. The deer had shed his horns many times when a baby boy, now grown to be a fine lad, when his grandmother to dig flag roots, they took a sharp flint knife, which to cut the ground, for the roots are hard to pull. When they had been some time in the swamp, they found the roots came up easily, and then more easily, till at last they had to take hold of the flag, have it at once loosened from the earth. The old woman said, surely something strange is going to happen. Let us go. Oh, go home. I do not care to dig any more today. The boy took an armful of flags to the place where he had put the others, but the pile was gone. He called to his grandmother and asked her if she had moved the roots. No, my child, said she, perhaps some giant has stolen them. Let us go home. The boy looked around and soon spied a man sitting under a tree not far off. He felt sure it was he who had stolen the flags, and taking up some small stones, he threw them at him, calling him thief, coward. The man did not move. At last, a stone larger than the others struck his leg and broke it. He lifted up the leg, bound it tightly with a strip torn from his coat, and again sat down under the tree. Then he beckoned to the boy and, pointing to some bones in front of him, asked, what bones are these? The boy answered promptly, elk or deer. No, said the man, these are the bones of your father. Has not the old woman told you how he was killed by Stone Shirt and his bones left to rot like those of the wolf? No, said the boy. Has she not told you of her mother, whom Stone Shirt carried off? No, said the lad again, but the man saw he would fight the giant, so he said no more, but disappeared as suddenly as he had come. The boy went back to his grandmother and told her what he had heard. She knew at once that he must have seen a spirit. When the boy blamed her for keeping the story of his father a secret, she cried and said, you are my only hope. If you go to fight Stone Shirt, he will kill you, and I shall be alone. The boy made no answer, but went and laid down on his couch of skins, for he felt a heavy sleep coming over him. He slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When he awoke, he refused food and said, I am going to all nations to enlist warriors in my cause, and passed out of the wigwam. The boy was tall and well formed, and while he slept, he had taken on the face of a young man. or a younger man. He traveled many moons. Wherever he went, the chiefs listened to him, and the young men of the different tribes took up their bows and arrows and declared themselves ready to follow him. Among them were two magicians, the wolf and the rattlesnake. These two went with him some distance, and three entered his grandmother's wigwam. After they had eaten a meal, which the old woman gladly prepared for them, the young man took a stone axe and, handing it to her, asked her to cut him in two. She refused, but he persisted and at last commanded her to do as he said, and in such a tone that she dared not disobey. She struck the blow terribly, hitting the red deer's tail that he wore. When lo, each half of his body took form, and instead of one handsome young warrior, there were two who were so much alike that one could not be distinguished from the other. The 1, 2, as they called themselves, went out to meet the people who were now advancing through the forest. The number of them was so great that it was a day's march from the foremost men to those at the end of the trail. Their way lay through a barren place, and they traveled all day without seeing trees or water. Somewhere I missed something there. The next morning, through the barren place, the next morning, they began to grumble, for they suffered from thirst. As the day wore on, they grumbled more and more and began to threaten 1, 2, though no one had been compelled to follow. The rattlesnake, who had much wisdom, said, 1, 2, now is the time to bring out your magic cup. The cup was a large bowl of polished basswood. It could be held in the hand, and yet when one looked inside it, one could not see the bottom. 1, 2 had received it from the magician when he first set out on the journey. He had sealed it, as he had been told, with water lily leaf and a balsam of a fir, and kept it to use when in great distress. The brothers consulted together and decided to take the rattlesnake's advice. They handed the cup from one to another, and as soon as all had taken all that he wanted, even to what might have been half that it held, the cup was full again, and before it could be passed to the wolf, he was dead. The people grumbled again, for the wolf was brave and gave them courage. The brothers paid no attention to the complaints, but one held the cup while the other took some water from it, and with it sprinkled the wolf. Wolf arose and cried, "Why did you disturb me? I was having such a pleasant dream." They gave him the cup, and he drank all that there was in it. But when he handed it to the brothers, it did not refill. They brought but little food with them, and no animals crossed their path in the barren place, so they were hungry. And on the third day began again to grumble and to accuse the brothers. The 1, 2 saying nothing, but towards evening they said to the wolf, who was keen of sight and scent, Is not that an antelope in the distance?" "Yes," said the wolf, "but it is not the goat with many eyes, the watchman of the stone shirt. Nevertheless, I will go and kill it." Then the rattlesnake said, "Let me go for the antelope. We'll see you and we'll run away." But the 1, 2 sent the wolf, for they knew him to be the braver. He started at once, going in and out so as to hide in the bushes. After he had gone, the rattlesnake said to the 2 brothers, "Do you see me?" "No," was the answer, and they began to search for him. They looked in the vain till the rattlesnake chose to show himself, Although they were standing in an open space where there was no place for him to hide, the rattlesnake again asked to be allowed to hunt the antelope. The brothers told him he might go, and in a few hours he returned with the game on his shoulders. The wolf saw him as he passed at first and was very angry, but afterwards he said to himself, "What does it matter so long as the people get food?" Again, they were without water. So the two changed themselves into doves, took the magic cup and flew with it towards the lodge of Stone Shirt, which they knew was on the edge of the lake. The daughters of Stone Shirt bathed in the lake every morning, and having been annoyed by birds peeping at them from the bushes, they set a snare for them. The 1-2, knowing nothing of this, were caught, and the maidens carried them to the lodge. Stone Shirt looked at them with suspicion, for he knew no such birds lived thereabouts, and he feared they were spies. His daughters, however, persuaded him not to kill them. They stroked them and fed them, and in the morning let them fly away. The brothers went back to the bushes where they had dropped the cup, filled it, and flew with it to their camp. The next day, they ventured near Stone Shirt's lodge in their natural form. This time, they saw their mother. She did not believe their story at first, for she had left only one child. But when they explained how everything had happened, she begged them not to fight Stone Shirt and told them about his armor and his daughters with arrows. But they could not be persuaded. They told her they would surely fight the giant the next day and warned her not to go down to the lake for fear she might be hit by a stray arrow. That night, 1-2 disguised themselves as mice and crept into the wigwam of Stone Shirt, where they nibbled the strings of all his bows. The rattlesnake went with them and hid himself behind a rock on which Stone Shirt sat every morning. When the giant appeared as usual, the rattlesnake bit him. He leaped high in the air and exclaimed, "We are betrayed." His daughters seized their bows and arrows, but found them useless, as the strings had been gnawed. The cry of Stone Shirt had aroused the warriors, who, having advanced in the night, were lying in ambush near his lodge. They let fly a shower of arrows and then rushed from their hiding place. But the maidens were struck, and waving their hands to their enemies to fall back, they sang a death song and fell dead across the path that led to the lodge. 1-2 were very sorry, for the maidens had been kind to them. They buried them with great mourning, but the bones of Stone Shirt were left to rot as he had left those of his father, the crane. Well, there you go. Then the next one's the Great Wizard. I think this one was about a giant too. But anyway, so much for that. But anyway, we got more stuff to go on. There we go. Well, I hope you like that one. That was a giant story. It is kind of hard to find giant stories, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But we got others. Let's see. Oh, here we got this one here. This is what I want to go to. And this tells a little bit about other tribes and giant stories. Now, David, maybe you can help me pronounce some of these names because I'm not good with that. This is the Nakat Yupik Indian giant. Napa Opik, I guess. Let's see if I can click on this one. Then we got the Asin. This is Asin, yes. This one, Asin, is a cannibal, Agus, from the mythology of the Asin tribe. Like a monstrous orgs or northwest coast, Asin preys on children and is often the subject of the boogeyman. Stories told to frighten children to avoiding danger behavior. A sin was particularly associated with huckleberry plants. So Asin people, especially children, did not touch or eat huckleberries. Hearing Asin's cries was considered an omen of death. August, basket August from the Coatlicue or the Tinglet or Salish tribes. Basket woman, giant woman. So now we got a giant woman. The basket August is a marauding giant common to folklore of many Northwest Coast tribes. She catches humans, especially naughty or careless children, and carries them off in her enormous pack basket to eat them in her lair. Luckily, she is rather dim-witted, and her prey usually manages to escape. Although there are some Northwest Coast legends where Basket Woman has a great mythological importance, in most tribes she primarily plays the role of a boogeyman and fairy tale adversary. Apache Indians, Big Owl Man, or Old Man Big, whichever way you want to look at it. Big Owl is a malicious and dangerous giant, often used as the boogeyman in children's stories. In some Apache tribes, Big Owl may also plays more important mythological role and an early adversary of war twins. Like the legendary Apache beings, Big Owl is sometimes described as having human form in the case of a man-eating org, and other times animal form, in which case an horned owl large enough to carry off a child. Let's see, ice giant, Algonquin. Oh, that one ain't found. Kiwa. Here's one. It's from the Prescott or the Abenaki. It is a Kiwas, the real evil man-eating ice giant of southeastern Wabakati legends. According to most legends, a Kikwa was once a human being who either became possessed by evil spirit or committed a terrible crime, especially cannibalism, or without holding food from a starving person, causing his heart to turn into ice. In some Abenaki legends, the stone giants Awashka were not transformed humans, but primordial man-eating monsters, defeated by a cultural hero, Gulupski, whatever. Or Lupsku, I don't know. Messed that one up. The Creek Indians. Koloawa is kind of a hairy man eating org from Creek mythology. Some recent Creek storytellers have translated it as a gorilla. Sounds like a Bigfoot to me. Let's see. Chickasaw. We all know Chickasaw. Come on. The Lofa. Let's see. The Lufa is a malevolent org-like monster of the Chickasaw folklore. His name literally means flayer or skinner, a reference to his gruesome habit of flaying the skin from his victims. In some legends, he attempts to abduct Chickasaw women. And he is sometimes described as a giant, and other times a large and hairy, smelly man, leading some people to associate him with Bigfoot legend. Let's see, Choctaw, Swampy. The Swampy is a malevolent og-like monster of Choctaw folklore. In some legends, he attempts to abduct Choctaw women. In others, he is a man-eater. He is sometimes described as a giant and other times a large, hairy man, leading some people to associate him with Bigfoot legend. His most slight feature is his smell. A schlumpy smell is so overpowering that a person cannot bear to be around him, making him difficult to fight. Ooh, Wendigo. We all heard of that one. This is from the Chippewa, Ottawa, Algonquins, and the Pompawampi. Wendigos are an evil, man-eating giant of the Ashawambi mythology. Wendigos play the role of monsters and boogeymen. In some legends and others, Chippewa people who commit sins, especially selfishness, gluttony, and cannibalism, are turned into Wendigo as punishment. The appearance of a Wendigo is huge, monstrous, and made of a coat of ice. But the human is still frozen inside the monster, where its heart should be, and must be killed to defeat the Wendigo. In a few legends, a human has been successfully rescued from the heart of the Wendigo, but usually once a person has been possessed by the Wendigo spirit, they only escape is death. Crete Indians. Here we go. The Witico are evil man-eating giants of Crete mythology. Witicos play the role of monsters and boogeymen in some legends, and in others, Crete people who commit sins, especially selfishness, gluttony, and cannibalism, are turned into Witico or punishment. The appearance of a Witico is huge, monstrous, and made coated in ice. In some Crete stories, looking directly at a Witico will leave a person paralyzed and helpless against it. Wendigo heart is said to be made of ice, and the monster can only be permanently killed if its heart is completely melted. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting, isn't that? So, anyway, I got more. So I got this here, Bigfoot, wild men, and giants. And I picked out a few things in this just to prove my point. This giant thing goes back many, many, many years. Indian legends and so forth and so on. This has been going on for a long, long time. Only thing is so now I picked out some stuff that, pertains to the Indian stuff too. So this here is an account from a UK magazine in February 1st, 1784. In 1774, a wild man was discovered by the shepherds in the neighborhood of Uri. This man, who inhabited the rocks near a was very tall, covered with hair like a bear, very nimble, and of gay humor. He neither did nor fermented to intend to harm anybody. He often sported the cottages without ever attempting to carry off anything. He had no knowledge of bread, milk, or cheese. His great amusement was to flee the sheep running, to scatter them, and he did it with pleasure. At this fight, by loud fits of laughter. But after attempting to hurt them, when the shepherd left, and their dogs, he sigged the dogs after him. He fled with whirls of an arrow, and he never allowed the dogs to come too near to him. One morning, he came to the cottage of I think I got the right one. Oh yeah, I got the right one. He fled to escape. He was about 30. He seemed to be about 30 years of age, and it was very extensive and has a communication with a valid wood that belongs to a Spanish territory. It is natural to Fallopial, and this solitary but cheerful creature has been seen in his infancy and has settled on herbs. I don't know why I picked that one. was supposed to be about, maybe it was this one. Oh no, that wasn't it either. Okay, here I got another one. This one's the Choctaw, and this was in 1829. Indian superstitions, the Choctaw Nation, it appears, maybe if I have my light, I can see this better. It's kind of dark in here. Sorry, everybody. The Choctaw Nation, it appears from one of their late statutes, which gives below entertainment some singular superstition respecting witches and wizards. The Alabama Intelligencer says that the more ignorant part of the Indians believed in the existence of a wild man of the woods who confers supernatural powers. The person wishing to receive such powers hangs his intestines on some bough of a tree, and thereupon is enabled to work all manner of mischief unseen until he resumes them. The doctors say that the same says the name paper have been in the habit of pronouncing anyone they were called to see bewitched by some particular Indian. This was a sufficient warrant for the friends of the patient, without further ceremony, to attack and kill with impunity the person pronounced by the doctor to be a witch. In this way, mainly innocent persons have fallen victim to this popular superstition. The enlightened chiefs and headmen are incredulous upon the subject, but have found the popular faith too strong and deep-rooted to be met with overthrown by a direct attack, and have therefore enacted a law which, while it contents the superstition of ignorant, renders it harmless, and in the forms of a law be observed, it is impossible that another victim should fall. Now, okay, we got that one, and we're moving up the line. Here's the Evening Telegraph, 1870. 2 miles, or this is in India. This is an Indian mound, Chickasaw human skeletons, 8 of them, 10 feet in height, 2 miles west of Barfield Point in Arkansas County, Arkansas, on the east bank of the lovely stream called Penobscot River, stands an Indian mound, some 20 feet high, and about an acre in area on the top. This mound is called Chickawaba, and from it, the high and beautiful country surrounding it for some 12 miles square in areas divides its name Chickasawa. The mound derives its name from Chickawaba, a chief of the Shawnee tribe who lived and died and was buried there. The chief was one of the last of the race of hunters who lived in the beautiful region and who once peopled it quite thickly, for Indians were many. From 1820 to 1831, he and his hunters assembled annually at Barfield Point, then as now the principal shipping place of the surrounding county, and barter off their furs and pelts and buffalo robes and honey to the white settlers and the trading boats of the river, receiving in return powder, shot, lead baskets, or powder, shot, lead, basket, or blankets, money, etc. Aunt Kitty Williams, who now resides there, relates that Chickasawaba would frequently bring in for sale at one at a time as much as 20 gallons of prize or prior honey in deerskin bags slung to his back. He was always firm friend of the whites, a man of gigantic stature and Herculean strength. In his 19th year, he took a young wife and by her had 2 children. In 1831, she died, and the old chief did not long survive her, dying in the same year, aged 93 or 94. Mr. W. Fitzgerald, who moved in that country in 1830 or 22, says that up to that time, out of his death, Chickasaw supplied him with game. He was buried at the foot of the mound on which he had lived by his tribe, most of whom departed from the nation immediately after performing his funeral rites. A few, however, lingered there up to the late date, the last of them, we believe, being John East, who in 18 something, 18, I don't know, I can't read the number. At the breaking out of the war, it must be 1860, out of the breaking of the war, joined Captain Charlie Bowden's company of the so-called fort and fought the war through a gallant, a reb, and anything them counting back home in 1863 to return to the art of peace. Chickasaw was perfectly honest, and he had best informed chief of his tribe. His contemporary chief was a Long Knife, Sunshine, Cornmeal, Moonshine, etc. Mike Brennan and Quill buried him. He left a son named John Premiscott a number of years ago in making an excavation into the near of the foot of the Chickasaw mound, a portion of a something was found. The men who were digging, becoming interested, unearthed the entire skeleton of measurements given to us by reliable parties. The frame of a man to whom it belonged could not have been less than 8 or 9 feet in height. Under the skull, which easily slipped over the head of our informant, who we will here state is one of our best citizens, was found a particularly shaped earthen jar resembling nothing in the way of Indian pottery, which had before been seen by them. It was exactly the shape of a round-bodied, long-necked something, a water decanter, a specimen of which may be seen on a Galston's dining table. The material of which the vase was made was a particular kind of clay, and the workmanship was very fine. The belly or the body of it was ornamented with figures and hieroglyphs consisting of correct something handles parallel to each other, open palms outward and running up and down the vase, the wrist of the base, and the flags towards the weak or towards the back. On the other side of the hands were something on the thigh bones, also correctly detailed, running around the vase. There were other things found on the skeleton, but this is all that our informer remembers. Since that time, wherever, as the excavation has been made in Chickasaw County in the neighborhood of the mound. Okay, and found similar to funeral. But anyway, there you go. So that one was, they excavated a mound and look what they found. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A giant, he was 9 feet tall, had a vase like no other Indian guy would ever have. What the heck is going on? Okay, here's one in Tuscaloosa Gazette, Alabama. So that's right up in your area there. Underground, and this one, if anybody's ever heard of this, October 11th, 1883. This is how the world covers up things, though. The following is from a Moulton advertiser, but our friend Jordan has a wonderful milk cow, and we are inclined to receive it without without cream. On returning to Cortland in the afternoon, we found that the people much excited over the discovery of an underground palace on Big Nance, just below the railroad bridge. It has been explored for miles and some wonderful discoveries made. It appears to be the entrance to a new and better world where night never comes and sorrow never enters. 2 bones of a giant skeleton of men and women many times larger than the Anglo-Saxon race were discovered, and they are said to be in perfect state of preservation. We did not have time to visit the cave, but were reliably informed it has every appearance of an underground palace and is believed to be the door to a new kingdom. The most astonishing feature about the cave, if indeed it is a cave, is that the light that one sees on the entering, and the further you go, the more brilliant the light becomes. The air is healthful, dry, and invigorating. Images can be seen and voices heard all over the place, or the palace, which baffles the better judgment of our scientific men. We shall go down and explore the cave at an early day and give our readers a more extended account of it. So where the heck is this cave? Did the government catch it and cover it up?
Probably.
You know, see, these are the things I'm like, so somebody discovers something and it immediately goes away. Was that a cave of, wild men? Was it a cave of giants? Apparently, giant wild men bones. Okay, this one's from 1897. He was 7 feet tall. The bones of an Indian found in Maryland, the Indian of a giant race. There has just been received at a Maryland Academy of Science the skeleton of an Indian 7 feet tall. It was discovered near Artetum 10 days ago. I guess that's Artetum. There are now skeletons of 3 powerful Indians at the Academy who at one time in their wilderness roamed over the state of Maryland, armed with such instruments as nature something gave them, or that their limited skull taught them to make. 2 of these skeletons belong to individuals evidently of gigantic size. Their vertebrae and their bones of the legs are nearly as thick as those of a horse, and the length of the long bones exceptional. The skulls are of fine proportions and with walls of moderate thickness, but the great strength and stiffness behind a powerful optical ridge. The curves of the forehead are moderate and not retreating, suggesting intelligence and coherence, with jaws of moderate development. The locality from which these skeletons came is the Frederick County near Abtheum Creek. It was formerly supposed to have been in the battleground of 2 tribes of Indians, the Cataqualians and the Delawares. Tradition has handed down the statement that between the years 1730 and 1736, the Catawans overtook the band of Delawares at the mouth of the Antietam, and in the battle that ensued, the Delawares were completely obliterated, so that the tradition goes. But according to Dr. Phil R. Bounsler, president of the Maryland Academy of Science and something of the Peabody Institute, a careful examination of the locality has forced to establish evidence of the battle at this point, although numerous number of spear and arrowheads have been taken from the soil there. It is of great interest, however, to notice that the locality was at an earlier date before the coming of the white man, occupied as a village site by the Indians of great stature, some of them 6.5 to 7 feet in height. The bones of these were buried like those of prehistoric tribes. In other parts of the state, the manner of burial was like this. The flesh was cleansed from the bones, of which were then charred. The small bones of the skull and are ground whole about two ground, in which the skeleton was hurled and carefully packed in with clay into the grave. Was also placed pottery, a tomahawk, and the other weapons belonging to the Indians. No stone markings the grave, and no beads or wampum were buried with the skeleton. But over all, the earth was heaped up into a small oblong mound, along other similar mounds extended for many feet. The overflows of the neighboring river at the point had almost destroyed the burial area, so that only 3 of these small excavations were recognizable at the time of excavation. There you go. So that's what I had marked.
Wow.
But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty neat for giant Indians. I mean, giants in the Indian territory. I think remember I was reading about how the Indians had died out from disease and stuff. And when DeSoto had came, he's seen cities, thousands of people. And we were talking, you said, oh, there wasn't that many people. But I think what happened as I continue reading on, because I was like, you're kind of right. But then I'm thinking, maybe there was more to it than that. Okay, so apparently there was lots of these cities. They had quite the civilization going on, right?
Yeah.
But then when the white man came, DeSoto, in the early 1500s, what did he do? He traveled all around there. And what did he brought one thing with him. He brought pigs. And some of those pigs got away. And the pigs brought disease from Europe. And the white man went up and down the coast there. And this guy, oh gosh, what was his name? Oh, I just did a show on him the other day. Can't remember. But anyway, this Indian guy, he was taken on one of the first ships that the name will come to me in a second. He was taken back to England on one of the first ships, right? And when he returned, his village was all gone. And he went in and looked, and all the people were there in the village dead. And he went 40 miles into the interior, and everybody was dead. Nobody was alive. And so in the disease that they had brought with them was so devastating, the people caught it so fast that they didn't even have time to leave their houses. I mean, it was that bad and that swift that it killed. They said, they figured it killed. They went 200 miles up the coast to find nobody. And so all those Indian tribes, 95 to 96% died,
Wow.
leaving a small portion. So what happened is DeSoto came in he recorded all these Indians that we read about, right? Giants, Indian villages with thousands of men. By time LaSalle came to make pretty much the same trip through, he said there was no cities. There was no Indians. The place was deserted. There was nothing there. When the pilgrims and stuff came and all of these people were coming, the Indians were barely building their numbers back up. They were basically, going back, they went backwards. I mean, it'd be like New York having a 95 or 96% kill rate. You'd go from millions and millions, 10 million people living there to like 50,000. That means like every building would be pretty much empty. Can you imagine what a ghost town that place would look like? And what would you do with all of, I mean, your industry, everything would stop. Your traditions would quit. You'd be lucky to have who would grow the gardens, who would supply the food, build the towns, everything. And you got to remember, they lived in wooden villages. Even if they had forts like we were talking about, they would just deteriorate. A fort not being taken care of after a number of years would just fall apart, and all you'd see is, big pile of wood. These Indians had field. No wonder why, when the white man came to Georgia and did the crops and the plantations and stuff, all they did they were taking over the fields of a race that had been there just recently and had all the land pretty much cleared. There wasn't that much work to do to restore all the fields and get everything going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that race had been literally, all the Indians wiped out. That's why there were so few. And I'm thinking that makes a lot of sense, because that would allow all the animals that were in the woods to multiply tremendously, and multiply a lot, because if you don't have anybody hunting them, or, the woods being cut down or the firewood being burned, it's all going to, in a matter of, 100 years, between the years of the early 1500s and the early 1600s, in 100 years, everything would grow back. There wouldn't be nothing left. You'd find Squanto. That was the guy. Squanto. You've heard of Squanto.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Squanto was the guy. He was taken over to England. He learned the language. And when he came back to find none of his people. His people were all dead. And they went 200 miles up the coast before he found some Indians that were still alive. Can you imagine? Wow. Everybody's dead. Now, Squanto also gotten sick, but he was nursed by a kind man back to health and survived his sickness. Whereas in those Indian villages, there was nobody. They didn't know what was wrong with them. Can you imagine everybody getting sick, not knowing what is killing you off? We've never been sick before. And then boom, 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 everybody's getting sick. Like, what's wrong with you? Wake up. 2 days later, you're sick. And you die off too. You run off into the woods thinking, and then you give it to somebody else. And then, like I said, they were talking about how the pigs, they let those pigs loose. And that would have gave it to the turkeys, which they ate, the deer, all the animals that they were eating could have gotten infected from those pigs.
Yeah, that's possible.
And they would have, been eating the animals they normally do and literally gotten sick and died, and that would have been tremendously bad. But I just thought that was amazing how within, I can't remember how long it was with Squanto being gone, and it wasn't long. I think it was 10 years or something like that, 10 or 20 years. And he came back to find nobody except the bones of his people laying in their villages, empty, villages empty. And so, there was a big culling. And I imagine that there was giants out there, and I imagine that they were culled off too. And because why would they be immune to sickness? Even though they were strong in nature and height, and there was all these myths and legends, I'm sure that they got sick and died off just as fast.
They could have still got the flu.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know,
Sickness doesn't care if you're a giant or you're a peon. So that's my thing today. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Delavan Giants of 1912. Delaney Pearl Jones says, is there Delavan Giants of 1912? Let's see. I'll look it up. 1911, 1912. No, I don't see one in this book. No, Bones Base Giant, Discovery, Oregon, California. 1911. Nope, no 1912. Sorry. Well, thanks for coming, Delaney Pearl Jones, Max G, Max Vision. Yes, cool stories, cool stories. Remember that I got another book here. I'm going to probably do some stuff on this Tribal Bigfoot. This is from the 411 Missing guy, David Politis. Go check his books out on Can-Am Missing. His website, Can-Am Missing. Buy his books there. They're like $25 a piece. Elderberry. My wife says about getting honeydew. Big Al's in the house. Who else is here? Well, we got about 10 people watching. Good deal. What do we got tonight, David? Tell me where I'm going.
okay, go to your wait, let me switch screens. Folklore and Legends, North American Indian.
Okay. Green Giant. Let's see. Folklore. I'm glad they label these by letter. Folklore and
Yeah, at least you can find it by
Folklore and Legends, North American Indian by Philadelphia.
yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that.
And it'll be on, it's called, the name of the story is called Spirit and Lovers, and it'll be on page 45. So you got to scroll down a little ways.
Yep. Well, what do you think about giants and all that story stuff?
I think giants have been around for a very long time, and I think giants are the reason that the pyramids got built and some of those really big rocks and stuff in some of the other places. I think giants had something to do with it.
Well, I definitely think you're right. I think there was a whole society here before. The more I read about the giants, the more I think there was far fewer of them, and they were already dying out in some way, shape, or form. But they were mean, and they were kind of, they kind of ate humans, and they kind of and at the end, I think they didn't even have tribes. They were just wandering about aimlessly, just causing havoc because they were big and large. I mean, think about it. You're 10, 12 feet tall. Your skin is like armor. You can't really associate with a human because, they're too small, and you're hungry. According to what I read, the giants were hungry all the time, always hungry. and they were kind of mean. They were vicious, kind of vicious. They looked at the humans as being piddly and, didn't think much of us. But then again, it's like anything else. I mean, we do it in our society when we come across a different color or a different race. I mean, can you imagine? It'd be like being an alien and then looking around and going, well, you may look like me, but you're not human. I don't give a shit about you. Right?
Yeah. And not only that, but the 10, 12 footers, those were the small giants. There were
Yeah.
some that were, 25, 35 feet tall. Some of them were even 70 feet tall.
Yeah.
I mean, a 10 or 12 foot person, you could kind of like, holy crap, but, and a 20-foot giant, a 35-foot giant, oh my God. I mean, that's as tall as my house.
Yeah.
So, and if they ate people, well, then, that would even be more weird. But, it'd be hard to understand just how big those giants were, even a 10 to 12 footer, I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm overwhelmed when I come up to some person who is, like 7 foot tall. You're like, oh, you're a big guy.
yeah.
But then again, are these, I'm reading about some of these things, and then you're talking like some of these things, they're like Bigfoot. Is Bigfoot a Sasquatch, a remnant of this? It seems like Bigfoot has been around for a while, and let's see, I got a picture here somewhere.
I don't think Bigfoot and giants were related. That's my personal.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. I think oh, here we go.
Just different species. Just Bigfoot was Bigfoot and giants were giants,
Yeah.
I could absolutely be wrong, but it's from all the things that I've read, studied, and otherwise seen, Bigfoot would,
Yeah, because in these pictures, I'll show you in a second.
More of not necessarily an ape,
yeah,
but just more related.
Yeah. See, like the pictures they were drawn back in the day, they didn't draw these people as, giant. I mean, hairy apes. Totally different. Look at this guy. They're drawing him like a giant man. A giant woman. Here's a horse over here. Here's this guy. He's like, holy cow, you're big. Men 8 feet tall, once roamed in local forests, kind of thing. Here's another one. They meet up with these people. These look like regular people. Yeah, they probably got animal hides to cover their bodies, making them look like they got hair, but these are just giant people. Here's the natives fighting with the Spaniards. Look at here, 1603. King of the Pamawaki, Performer. I don't know. I can't read that. C. Smith. But anyway, so look, he towers over this guy. But then again, what if he's only like 7 foot tall? Because this guy here is only 5'1", or 5'2". Like I said, the Europeans were small people. A 7 foot tall guy would seem very big. Then this is what you're talking about here. Here he's 20 feet tall. 20. I mean, you're an Indian. Holy shit! I'd be scared out of my gourd. Here comes a giant men with red hair, kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'd be scared shitless. But okay, but here, I'm gonna take a second to do this. Where is this? I had this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. This is it. I had this all set out. Okay. So when the Indians of California here, they on their reservation, they have pictures, and they drew Bigfoot, or what appears to be Bigfoot. It's the hair all over. This is their rock art. Why would they draw something that doesn't exist? This is what they're drawing, Bigfoot. Some sort of, he's kind of human, but he's not. White term of Bigfoot. It says the hairy man was associated with white term of Bigfoot, and since then has been accepted. The hairy Bigfoot has always been the same creature. And it goes on and on about it. You people can look it up yourself, but he's giant creature. But anyhow, there are drawings of these guys. Giant race of giants. Look at their Choctaw talks about the giants, and there's stories that go with them. All the way back to 1553. He wrote a legendary giant described by him by the Manta indigenous people. There are, however, reports concerning giants in Peru who landed on the coast of the point of St. Helena. The natives relate the following tradition, which has been received from their ancestors from very remote times. So there's giants not here or there, but all over the world.
I may be wrong in this.
Yes.
But, and somebody please correct me, but the only place I don't know if I've heard of any giants has been Australia.
That's a good question. I do not know.
I mean, there have been giants in the South Pacific, but I don't know if I've heard of any giants in Australia.
That's a good question.
I'm just kind of
of all the ones I've done, I have not seen one from Australia, but I will have to look and check on it. I'll report back to you next week. Same time, same place.
That's just me. I'm always got that
Well, I mean, it's a good question. It is a good question on
Ayers Rock.
Yeah.
In the middle of Australia. It's very sacred.
Yep, I know what rock you're talking about. The big red one.
Yeah, the big red one.
Yep.
And I just out there where it's flat and ain't nothing else kind of thing. But the Aborigines, the Aboriginal folk, though, are supposed to be one of the original peoples.
Yep.
And so, but if they're the original peoples, that's interesting, but they're on a great big giant island. Yeah. But I'm my curiosity is such now. I'm curious if there were giants on that continent.
That's a good question.
Big giant island.
Good question. I'll have to dig into that a little bit. Being separated from the rest of the world. But I do think, after doing my research, I think that, when the Indians got sick and the people started traveling the world, they brought all that disease with them. And that's killed the giants off along with the Indians. Didn't really matter. Considering, if the people were getting sick, the giants would have came in and ate somebody or something or just even got close to the people or ate a deer or whatever. And, they're going to get sick just the same.
Yeah, well, what if I'm just playing, the devil's advocate here, but what if the reason for the giants eating people was, there are people who have eaten people. So, there are cannibals, cannibalism, but what if game or something had gotten so scarce and they were so hungry that, for whatever reason, it couldn't feed the giants any longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
And
the giants, out of craziness and hunger,
necessity. Yeah.
started eating peoples.
Well, they said that, well, think about it this way. We were talking about how there was a vast many people back in those days before the white man got here.
Right.
And obviously they probably have killed, most of the game, because they weren't farming game. They were farming vegetables. And, well, that would have made food scarce and people much more easily and readily available, considering that, a giant could run through the village, not really worry about the bows and arrows that they would shoot, But anyway, I did find out something interesting. They were saying that a giants would shoot a bow and their arrow could penetrate an oak tree. Right. And I did a little research on that, where a guy who said that to do that, you would have to have 1,000-pound pull on your bow. Well, because most people are going to have, they said, you're doing 75, maybe 100 pounds at that on a recurve bow. But can you imagine having 1,000-pound? You'd have to be a pretty good sized guy to pull 1,000-pound one. I mean, and how deadly would it?
Where'd they get the string?
I don't know.
I'm just,
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows what they had back in the day? Obviously somebody had string of some sorts.
Well, they made it out of animal sinew and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was just, if you've got a 15, let's be conservative, and just a 15-foot guy.
Yeah.
And so, most bows are almost as tall as the person. I mean,
yeah.
I'm almost 6 foot. And so my bow's at least up to my nose. So, it's at least 5 foot.
Yeah.
And that's a curvy kind. But
yeah.
Anyway, so you got to have a string that is that long. So if you've got a 20-foot giant, then his bow's
15 feet,
way up there. It's a big sucker, and he's using a whole tree.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, the weight of that arrow alone. Oh my gosh!
And think about whatever they're using on the end of it as a projectile. A flint arrowhead. If I mean, how big that sucker would be. I mean, if the giant is that big, then that rock, holy mackerel, it'd be as big as a person. Hard for a person to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy, isn't it? When you really start thinking about it, it's like, holy cow. Was this the one, the spirits and the lovers?
Yes.
All right. I got the right one.
Now we're going from giants to little people.
How appropriate.
Hang in there.
Yes. That's another one. I read a lot about the little people too. They had little people.
Oh yeah, the stories of the little people are much more abound than that of the giants.
Yeah, it seems
all
like
kinds of stories about the little people.
Yes.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes, anytime you are.
Okay. The spirits and the lovers. At the distance of a woman's walk of a day from the mouth of a river, they called by the pale faces the White Stone. In the country of the Sioux, in the middle of a large plain, stands a lofty hill or a mound. Its wonderful roundness, together with the circumference of it standing apart from all other hills, like a fir tree in the midst of a wide prairie, or a man whose friends and kindred have all descended to the dust, has made it known to all the tribes of the West. Whether it was created by the Great Spirit or filled up by the sons of man, whether it was done in the morning of the world, ask not me, for I cannot tell you. No, it is called by all the tribes of the land the hill of little people, or the mountain of little spirits. No gifts can induce an Indian to visit it, for why should he incur the anger of the little people who dwell in it, and, sacrificed upon the fire of their wrath, behold his wife and children no more? In all the marches and counter marches of the Indians, and all their goings and returnings, in all their wanderings by day or by night, to and from lands which lay beyond it, their paths are so ordered that none approaches near enough to disturb the tiny inhabitants of the hill. The memory of the red man of the forest has preserved at one instance when their privacy was violated, since it was known through the tribes that they wished for no intercourse with mortals. Before that time, many Indians were missing each year. No one knew what became of them, but they were gone and left no trace and nor story behind. Valiant warriors filled their quivers with arrows, put new strings to their bows, new shod their moccasins, and sallied out to acquire glory in combat. But there was no wailing in the camp of our foes. Their arrows were not felt, their shouts were not heard. Yet they fell not by the hands of our foes, but perished we know not how. Many seasons ago, there lived within the limits of the great council fire of the Mahas a chief who was renowned for his valor and victories in the field, his wisdom in the council, his dexterity and success in the chase. His name was Matori, or White Crane. He was celebrated throughout the vast regions of the West, from the Mississippi to the hills of the Serpent, from the Missouri to the plains of bitter frost, for all those qualities which render an Indian warrior famous and feared. In one of the war expeditions of the Pawnee Mahas against the Burnt Wood Tetons, it was the good fortune of the former to overcome and to make many prisoners, men, women, and children. One of the captains, Sakajiha, or the bird girl, a beautiful creature in the morning of life, after being adopted into one of the Mahas families, became the wife of the chief warrior of the nation. Great was the love which the White Crane had for his wife, and it grew yet stronger when she had brought him 4 sons and a daughter. Tatoka, or the antelope, she was beautiful. Her skin was fair, her eyes were large and bright as those of the bison ox, and her hair black and braided with beads, brushed as she walked, the dew from the flowers upon the prairies. Her temper was gentle and her voice sweet. It may not be doubted that the beautiful Tatoka had many lovers, but the heart of the maiden was was touched by none of the noble youths who sought her. She bade them all depart as they came. She rejected them all. Within the perverseness which is often seen among women, she had placed her affections upon a youth who had distinguished himself by no valiant deeds in war, nor by industry or dexterity in the chase. His name had never reached the surrounding nations. His own nation knew him not unless as a weak and imbecile man. He was poor in everything which constitutes the riches of Indian life. Who had heard the twanging of Carcapas in the retreat of the bear, or who had beheld the war paint on his cheek or brow? Where were the scalps of the prisoners that had betokened his valor or daring? No song of valiant exploits had been heard from his lips, nor had he none to boast of. If he had done aught becoming a man, he had done it when none was by. The beautiful Tatoka, who knew and lamented the deficiencies of her lover, strove long to conquer her passion without success. At length, since her father would not agree to her union with her lover, the two agreed to fly together. The night fixed came, and they left the village of the Mahas and the lodge of Matori for the wilderness. Their flight was not unmarked, and when the father was made acquainted with the disgrace which had befallen him, he called his young men around him and bade them pursue the fugitives, promising his daughter to whosoever should slay Karkakpaha. Immediately pursuit was made, and soon 100 eager youths were on the track of the hapless pair. With that unerring skill and sagacity in discovering footprints which marked their race, their steps were tracked and themselves soon discovered flying. What was the surprise of the pursuers when they found that the path taken by the hapless pair would carry them to the mountain of the little spirits, and they were sufficiently in advance to reach it before they could be overtaken. None of them durst venture within the supposed limits, and they halted till the white crane should be informed of his daughter and her lover, placed themselves under the protection of the spirits. In the meantime, the lovers pursued their journey towards the fearful residence of the little people. Despair lent them courage to perform an act to which the stoutest Indian resolution had hitherto been unequaled. They determined to tell their tale to the spirits and ask their protection. They were within a few feet of the hill when on a sudden its brow, on which no object had till now been visible, became covered with little people, the tallest of whom was not taller than the knee of the maiden, while many of them, but these were children, were of lower stature than the squirrel. Their voice was sharp and quick, like the barking of a prairie dog. A little wing came out at each shoulder. Each had a single eye, which eye was to the right in the men and to the left in the women, and their feet stood out at each side. They were armed like Indians, with tomahawks, spears, bows, and arrows. He who appeared to be the head chief for he wore an air of command and had the eagle feather, came up to the fugitives and said, "Why have you invaded the village of our race, whose wrath has been so fatal to your people? How dare you venture into the limits of our residence? Know you not that your lives are forfeited?" Tatoka, for her lover, had less than the heart of a doe, and was speechless, related their story. She told them how they had loved, how wroth her father had been, how they had stolen away and been pursued, and concluded her tale of sorrow with a flood of tears. The little man who wore the eagle feather appeared moved by what she said, and calling round him a large number of men, who were doubtless the chiefs and counselors of the nation, a long consultation took place. The result was a determination to favor and protect the lovers. At this moment, Shango Tongo, or the big horse, one of the bravest whom Matori had dispatched in quest of his daughter, appeared in view in pursuit of the fugitives. It was not till Matori had taxed his courage that Big Horse had ventured on the perilous quest. He approached with the strength of heart and singleness of purpose which accompany any Indian warrior who deems the eyes of his nation upon him. When first the brave was discovered thus wantonly, and with no other purpose but the shedding of blood, intruding on the dominions of the spirits, no words can tell the rage which appeared to possess their bosoms. Secure in the knowledge of their power to repel the attacks of every living thing, the intrepid Maha was permitted to advance within a few steps of Karkapaha. He had just raised his spirit to strike the unmanly lover when, all at once, he found himself riveted to the ground. His feet refused to move. His hands hung powerless at his side. His tongue refused to utter a word. The bow and arrow fell from his hand, and his spear lay powerless. A little child, not so high as the fourth leaf of the thistle, came and spat on him, and a company of the spirits danced around him, singing a taunting song. When they had thus finished their task of preparatory torture, 1,000 little spirits drew their bows, and 1,000 arrows pierced his heart. In a moment, innumerable mattocks were employed in preparing him a grave, and he was hidden from the eyes of the living ere Tatoka could have thrice counted over the fingers of her hand. When this was done, the chief of the little spirits called Karkapaha before him and said, "Maha, you have the heart of a doe. You would fly from a roused wren. We have not spared you because you deserve to be spared, but because the maiden loves you. It is for this purpose that we will give you the heart of a man, that you may return to the village of the Mahas and find favor in the eyes of Matori and the braves of the nation. We will take away your cowardly spirit, and we will give you the spirit of the warrior whom we slew, whose heart was firm as a rock. Sleep, man of little soul, and wake to be better worthy the love of the beautiful antelope. Then a deep sleep came over the Maha lover. How long he slept, he knew not. But when he woke, he felt at once that a change had taken place in his feelings and temper. The first thought that came to his mind was of a bow and arrow. The second was of the beautiful maiden who lay sleeping at his side. The little spirits had disappeared. Not a solitary being of the many thousands who, but a few minutes before, had filled the air with their discordant cries was now to be seen nor heard. At the feet of Karkapaha lay a tremendous bow, larger than any warrior ever yet used, a sheaf of arrows of proportionate size, and a spear of a weight which no Maha could wield. Karkapaha drew the bow as an Indian boy bends a willow twig, and the spear seemed in his hand but a reed or a feather. The shrill war whoop burst unconsciously from his lips, and his nostrils seemed to dilate with the fire and impatience of a newly awakened courage. The heart of the fond Indian girl dissolved in tears when she saw these proofs of strength and these evidences of spirit, which she knew, if they were coupled with valor, and how could she doubt the completeness of the gift to effect the purpose of the giver, would thaw the iced feelings of her father and tune his heart to the song of forgiveness. Yet it was not without many fears, tears, and misgivings on the part of the maiden that they began their journey to the Maha's village. The lover, now a stranger to fear, used his endeavors to quiet the beautiful Tatoka, and in some measure succeeded. Upon finding his daughter and her lover had gone to the Hill of the Spirits, and that Shogotonga did not return from his perilous adventure, the chief of the Mahas had recalled his braves from the pursuit and was listening to the history of the pair as far as the returned warriors were acquainted with it, when his daughter and her lover made their appearance. With a bold and fearless step, the once faint-hearted Karkapaha walked up to the offended father and, folding his arms upon his breast, stood as erect as a pine and motionless as that tree when the winds of the earth are changed. It was the first time that Karkapaha had ever looked on angry men without trembling, and a demeanor so unusual in him excited universal surprise. Karkapaha is a thief, said the white crane. It is the father of Tatoka that says it, answered the lover. Else would Karkapaha say it was the song of a bird that has flown over. My warriors say it. Your warriors are singing birds. They are wrens. Karkapaha says they do not speak the truth. Karkapaha has a brave heart and the strength of a bear. Let the braves try him. He has thrown away the woman's heart and become a man. Karkapaha is changed, said the chief thoughtfully, but how and when? The little spirits of the mountain had given him a new soul. Bid your braves draw his bow. Bid them poise this spear. Their eyes say they can do neither. Then is Karkapaha the strong man of his tribe? As he said this, he flourished the ponderous spear over his head as a man would poise a reed, and drew the bow as a child would bend a twig. Karkapaha is the husband of Tatoka, and Mahatori springing to his feet, and he gave the maiden to her lover. Traditionary lore of the Maha is full of the exploits, both in war and in the chase of Karkapaha, who was made a man by the spirits of the mountain. When I read that, I thought, now that's just a dadgum interesting story.
It is. It really is.
I mean, so here was all these other people and all these other people she could have fell in love with, but she fell in love with the worst person of the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But she loved him, and she wished that, you know, early on in the story, how she wished that these things could change, but because her father wouldn't accept him, that's when they flew away. But so the you know, the chief of the little ones, you know, said, you have the heart of a doe. You know, of a fawn, just you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're not sparing you because, you know, you're that way. We're sparing you because your lover, she loves you.
Yep.
She loves you. That's why we're going to do this. She loves you. Now, I'm just, I don't know. That just seems like a really cool love story. I mean, as I just read it, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, love conquers all.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes. It's a good one. It's a good one. Regine Hutchinson is in the house. Jargo Smith is in the house. Turian's son. Haven't seen you in a while. Alan. Oh, yes. Good stories tonight. I love it. So, yeah. Hope you're all enjoying that. You know what? In my search and studies for giant men, I came across one that was quite interesting. You know, we think that we've killed out all these people and everything, but did you know during World War I in the Ural Mountains in Russia, the troops came across a cave. One of the guys threw a rock into the cave and somebody threw the rock back. And they flushed what was in there out, and out came this man who they shot and killed. And he turned out to be a Neanderthal man. Go figure. And how did they prove that? Well, they buried him. But many years later, when one of the last guys was left from that troop that was on that expedition that killed that Neanderthal, told him where he was buried. They went out there, dug him up, and sure enough, from testing and stuff like that in the bones, they found out he was a Neanderthal man. Well, you know what the story says. If there's one, there's two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So obviously there's probably still some Neanderthal men roaming around out there. Isn't that kind of weird and cool all at the same time? I mean, you just got to think about how much of this earth we have not explored. Yep. You know, things, you know, lurking around the corners, or, you know, I mean, Neanderthals or Bigfoots, if they have any brains at all, they're smart enough to know, you know, not to get caught. You know, I mean, as I read these stories and about Bigfoot and stuff, it seems like Bigfoot learned, Sasquatch or whatever you want to call him, he learned that, you know, in the early stories, he was out there playing around. He would get caught. Men would run him down. Things like that. But eventually, as times changed, Bigfoot stayed hidden. Bigfoot, in one story I read, made fire. And then that made Bigfoot easy to find. And so Bigfoot don't make fire anymore.
Well,
You know
I
what I'm saying?
bet you he does, but he's learned how to conceal it.
And yeah, and that could definitely be, or whatever. But from what we know, we don't see Bigfoot making fire. But stories from years gone by say that Bigfoot made fire. Bigfoot lived in a tribe and associated with the Indians. But as man progressed, the Bigfoot tribe disappeared and was more hidden than ever. And the Indians turned into, what the white man is. And the Bigfoot tribe became more secluded.
Right. Well, they're down here in this in the South, and I'm thinking that also maybe up in the Carolinas and some of those swamps was the swamp ape.
Yeah.
And the swamp in my backyard, there are things that could live there, and up and down the Little Ochlockonee River and some of these wet places. White men don't go there. I mean,
Nope.
I'm a crazy old man, and I've been going down in these woods and everything, and there is no sign of anybody down there when you get down in the swamp.
Yeah.
And there might be the occasional person, that's property that goes down close to the river or something, but folks just don't go there just on a regular basis. So if something wanted to stay hidden, it'd be real easy for them to do it.
Well, and that's the thing is,
whatever.
Back in the day, everybody was a hunter, a tracker. They knew the ways of the forest a lot more than we do now. I mean, we don't pay attention to anything.
That's right.
I mean, these guys, you got to remember, they were going out there, and every time I went out in the woods, you could get eaten by a bear or killed by an Indian. So you got to be well aware of what you were doing. Today, you just go, I'm fine. I'm going out there. I don't even have a weapon. We're good. And you're oblivious. You're playing, you got your headphones on and you got some music blaring. You're telling the whole world you're coming down the river, or something. You're talking, you're jibber jabbing. You're not being quiet. You're letting the whole river, the whole swamp know you're coming.
Yep, I agree with you. I've had some folks that I have gone camping, hiking, out in the woods with over the years. And I walk up to them and I go, do you have any idea how loud you are? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I said, like when they was down, I had some folks here on the property, and they were down almost to the river. And they were talking so loud to one another that I could hear them up here at the house. And I walked up on them. They were so loud, they didn't hear me coming. And they were like, damn, how'd you get here? And I was like, do you have any idea how loud you are? I mean, I'm not saying you should shut up, but do you know how loud you are? And I just, it's like you can speak, not necessarily in a whisper, but that you're just not projecting your voice very far. And and I was like, okay, you come with me. And I picked one out who is one of the loudest. And I said, come with me. And we walked back up the trail. And I said, y'all just go back to talking the way you was. Don't try to hush up or nothing. Just talk the way you was. And we got back up the trail a little ways, and he said, oh my God, I can hear every word.
Yeah.
And I said, I know. And we're, a good 200 yards away from where you were. And it's almost like you were standing in the campsite with them. And I said, y'all just have no idea. But to your point, though, the awareness of people, and in their surroundings. And some folks most folks just don't have a clue.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, Yeah. And they tramp through the woods, making a lot of noise. They talk, like I said, they got the radio playing. They're talking, just slapping trees and doing just, yeah. Yeah, you can hear
That
them
they're the
coming from a
only,
mile away.
it's very selfish because it's like they're the only ones there.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand is that anything that any kind of wildlife is surely gone.
Yeah.
So well,
Yep.
listen, I know we're running long in the tooth, and I've got us a card pulled, and it's buffalo.
Buffalo. I haven't had buffalo in a long time.
Buffalo, you bring us the gifts of life. Hear our prayers, smoke rising like the phoenix. We are reborn within the sacred words. Buffalo is prayer and abundance. In the Lakota tradition, it was the white buffalo calf woman who brought the sacred pipe to the people and taught them to pray. The bowl of the pipe was the receptacle that held the tobacco and herb with the male and female.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Something happened. I could hear a buzzing noise, and all of a sudden, he's not there. Uh-oh. Think you got something wrong. Something happened. Uh-oh. Well, the card for tonight is buffalo.
Medicine.
Are you there? David, can you hear me? Huh. Well, something happened. Somebody froze up or something. Maybe it was me. I don't think I froze up. Huh. Your picture's still up there. Maybe it is me. Huh. Well, don't that just beat all? Technical difficulties, people. Weird.
Yeah, are you there?
Yeah? Are you there? Huh. I lost your picture. Huh. Well, sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties. But you know how that goes. It's always something. But I'm sure he'll be right back. We're having a pretty good show there. If we had just cut it off a little bit earlier. I hope you all enjoyed the good stories tonight, everyone. It was quite the interesting thing. If you're all interested in more Bigfoot stuff, I probably can do another show on Bigfoot or giants or whatever. But give me a thumbs up, share, whatever. We're trying to get our more subscribers out here. Tell somebody about the show. Getting up their numbers. Once I hit 1,000, I'll be able to go live anywhere. Anyway, there you are. You're back.
Man, everything started going wacko.
I could hear a buzzing in the background, like beep, 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 beep.
Oh, you can hear that?
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but
my computer.
Oh, that's what it was. Well, yeah, anyway.
Let me do Buffalo. I'll pick up where we left off with Buffalo real quick.
Okay. Sounds good.
All animals are sacred, but in many traditions, white buffalo is the most sacred. The appearance of white buffalo is a sign that prayers are being heard, that the sacred pipe is being honored, and that the promises of prophecy are being fulfilled. White buffalo signals a time of abundance and plenty. Buffalo was a major source of sustenance for the Plains Indians. It gave meat for food, hides for clothing, warm and soft buffalo robes for long winters, and hooves for glue. The medicine of buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for that which has been received. That's an important message right there. The medicine of buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for that which has been received. Buffalo medicine is also knowing that abundance is present when all relations are honored as sacred, and when gratitude is expressed to every living part of creation. When they say all relations, it means everything: plants, animals, rocks, our relatives, our friends. It means everything. Because of its desire to give the gifts that its body provided, and because of its willingness to be used on earth for the highest good before entering the hunting grounds of spirit. Buffalo did not readily stampede and run from hunters. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner and to give praise for the richness of life to be shared with all races, all creatures, all nations, and all life. It means smoking for others so that their needs are met, praying for the good of all things in harmony, and accepting the great mystery as part of that harmony. If you've drawn the buffalo card, you may be asked to use your energy in prayer. You may also be called upon to be an instrument of someone else's answer to a prayer. This could portend a time of recognize the sacredness of every walk of life, albeit different from yours. To honor another's pathway, even if it brings you sadness, is a part of the message that Buffalo brings. This may be a time of reconnection to the meaning of life and the value of peace. Most assuredly, this time will bring serenity amidst chaos if you pray in earnest for enlightenment. They want me to read that again. Most assuredly, this time will bring serenity amidst chaos if you pray in earnest for enlightenment and the power of calmness and give praise for the gifts you already have. Buffalo medicine is a sign that you achieve nothing without the aid of the Great Spirit, and that you must be humble enough to ask for that assistance, and then be grateful for what you receive. Amen.
Absolutely.
There's Buffalo.
Cool.
Always be grateful.
Gratefulness is yeah. People aren't grateful anymore.
No, and it's so easy to do. You just look, you don't even have to look up, but I mean, you just say thank you to the universe. That's all. Just thank you, you know? It ain't a big deal. Just say thank you and mean it in earnest, you know?
Yes, yes. And we live in the land of plenty where people, we just don't realize all the goodness we got. We are so lavished in all, even like yourself, you got your little house there and stuff, but you still have electricity, you have a warm roof over your head, you got all, clothes to wear, food in the fridge, water to drink, all the amenities you can imagine. You turn on the switch and the lights come on, the furnace comes on, everything works, right? And then
all but the furnace part.
Okay. But you know what I mean? It's you have all of these things, and yet there's people out there, if you took some of that away, then we all take it for granted, and if you took the electricity away, like they're doing over there in like Ukraine, the power's going out because of the war. And there's no power in your house and it's wintertime. What do you do? What are you doing? You're living in darkness. You don't have any heat. Everything's connected. You can't go to the store and buy some food. I mean, if I was those people, I'd be packing up and moving out, because let them have the country. I'm going to sit and die here because there's no food, no power. What are you going to, what are these people saying? Well, I got to go to work tomorrow. We might get bombed or something like that. And, but there's no power. And what are we going to do? Rub two sticks together, stay warm? No, wear some winter clothes. And what?
Yeah.
If the power went out tomorrow, I wouldn't have a job. Most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Most of your factories run on electricity, lights,
That's right.
things. You go to the store, they're not going to be able to ring you up at the store because, oh yeah, all the stuff is scanned, and we got to run it through the electric cash register. Nobody knows how to add anymore. Well, I don't know how much that thing costs. There's no prices on it. We got a barcode. Well, we can't sell it to you in this way because we don't know how much we're selling it for. And how are we going to do the taxes? Well, I don't know. Add? I don't know. And then, then we have a cell phone. Here's your cell phone. Okay, great. Well, guess what? After a while, you can't charge it up. And then the cell phone towers go dead. Then you don't have one of those either. Your conveniences, your luxury all go away really fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No more going to the grocery store. No more going to work. No more money. Everything down tubes. And then you just sit there and wait and say, hope it's over soon. Do.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, think of Buffalo, and and we be grateful to the universe for what we have.
All the abundance.
I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a great night for those of you who have tuned in. And I'm always wishing and hoping and praying that everyone will accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings in the universe out there in the great mystery, and there's lots of answers to life's persistent questions if you'll just stop and listen.
Right on with that.
And be aware.
You got a show after this?
I hope so, for just a little bit. I got doctor's appointments tomorrow, so I can't be up too late. But
all right, sounds
I gotta
good.
I gotta go chase my dog down first.
Okay, go grab a cup of coffee, people. Tune back in, and you late birds, you'll have another show. Anyway, for me, I got to go to bed and get up tomorrow and go to work early. So with that, remember, people, go out, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.
And there.